The Braves continue to terrorize the entire league by hitting a ton of homers, winning many games, and having the best smile out of any team in the league. They continue to make me and Mitchell look very silly. We also give out some first half awards. Welcome to today's episode of BravesKast. Awesome. It is July 9th, 2023. When you watch this, it will be July 10th or possibly later than that. We are heading into the All-Star break. The Braves sit at 60 wins before the All-Star break, which is absolutely insane. I don't even think the most optimistic of Braves fans would have seen this one coming. We have a couple series to talk about, but really we didn't learn anything new about this team other than the fact that they are crazy. They make me feel delirious while watching them. How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
I didn't even get to watch the game today, so I haven't really watched the Braves lose in a frustrating fashion. Like, I guess today would have been that day, but I had to help my parents move. It's been a long time since I've watched the Braves play a game where I didn't feel like they had a chance. The past couple of losses that I've watched, like Cleveland, we'll get into that briefly, but it's a walk-off in the 10th inning. Anything happens in extra innings. A one-run loss to the Reds, where that was just one of the funnest games you could have had, where you're like, whatever.
Yeah, and both those games happened in Ohio, so it's like if it happened in Ohio,
does it really count? And then I guess today would have been frustrating, but it's just to a point where it's like, we lost by, I don't know, 6 runs. What was it?
Where
we needed that.
We lost by 4 runs.
We gotta escape those cheating allegations by Marlins fans.
We didn't. Yeah, the cheating allegations, and we also didn't want to come too hot into the All-Star break,
gotta
because then
give
we would have
other
felt...
teams a chance. It's bizarre. I've never had it's like when you play MLB The Show on franchise and then you juice up your team and then they never lose and you're like, man, I kind of need this team to lose like a game just so the record, we don't have like a 135 and 27 record.
It gets boring after so much winning. And I know a lot of the players, I think Matt Olson in particular, were talking about how they actually didn't really want to experience the All-Star break. They didn't want to take a break. They just want to keep going. So it is nice to know it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe we do need a break. Maybe we do need after such a tough loss, we do need that refresher.
When I got home today, I checked the box score to see if Snick could let Charlie Culberson get his inning in. Still no.
No.
So you want to go briefly through the series that we've had in the last 2 weeks, and then we can talk about the fun stuff?
Yeah.
So
it's all going to be fun stuff this episode,
but
folks.
The most fun stuff, you guys are going to have to wait just 10 minutes, but we'll get to it. So when we last talked, I think we predicted 8 wins. I remember going 7 seems like the right answer, but I'll go 8. And I remember Cole going well, Cole was wrong. I was wrong. They had 9, 10? Do they have 10 wins or 9 wins?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10
they
wins.
They went 10
wins over the stretch.
3 or 10 and 2? 10 and 2.
10 and 2,
they went 10 and 2 in the last 2 weeks.
And again, just to reiterate, and I know that there should be an asterisk on what I'm about to say, but this was these were series against 2 first-place teams and 2 second-place teams. Now, granted, one of those first-place and one of those second-place teams were in the AL Central.
Fake division.
Which I think should be abolished. I think they have to just tear it up and start, just the whole division has to go through a rebuild.
The division is just... The Central divisions in both leagues
those are not good teams.
Are pretty sad. I'm very happy that the Reds exist because it's a fun team. I actually went and watched them on Tuesday, and I watched Ellie De La Cruz have a 4-for-4 game. They're the only team you go out of your way for to watch a Central team play. So we started off against the Twins and
first place
at the time, right? The first place Twins. Cole and I talked about this before we got on the call, and there was just nothing about that series. It was like the most mundane sweep you could ever have, except for a 2 inning period against Joe Ryan where the Braves decided to hit basically everything out of the park. That was a sweep.
Yeah.
The offense did just enough to win every game in game 1 and 3. Colby Allard came out of nowhere. We were all expecting Soroka to start that last game. We got the news that it was Allard. We were both pretty disappointed. And then Colby Allard decided to be, Cole has it in our notes here as Max Fried Light. I think it was more like Sandy Koufax. Just struck out everybody. He ran out of gas because he was on a rehab start pretty much.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like 2019 all over again. You know, all these names that are coming up and contributing big innings for us. Yeah, Colby Allard, and they explained afterwards that, you know, the Twins, one thing, their offense is
brutal,
just bad,
awful
straight
offense.
up, but especially bad against lefties, which they proved in a stunning fashion.
Yeah,
how bad they are against lefties. No offense
we missed
to Colby
Pablo
Allard,
Lopez, but like the Twins pitching is why they're in first place. I think they're still in first. But yeah,
while they're teetering,
their offense is just
place.
abysmal. And that's all we have to say about that. Moving on to the highlighted series of the last 2 weeks. The Miami Marlins are in second place. They're a really good team, actually. They came into town trying to make some noise. Marlins fans on Twitter actually are starting to get loud. I didn't realize there were Marlins fans in general, so I'm kind of happy to see them out and loud. They should be. They have a good team this year. I'm proud of them. They got destroyed. Like, the Marlins never had a chance except for like 3 innings in game 3.
Game 3 they won up against Strider
2-3-0, something like that. Yeah.
With their 2022 Cy Young Award winner on the mound, but
that didn't last very long.
That quick side note too, and I know this has been said plenty by people in the baseball world, but if you were to tell me at the start of the season that the Marlins would be comfortably in second place and Sandy Alcantara would have an ERA starts with a 4, I think might even start with a 5 now, I would just tell you you're crazy.
Yeah.
The fact that they're able to do what they're doing without Sandy Alcantara being at full strength is absolutely
I'm really impressed.
bonkers.
I've been impressed with the Marlins pitching almost every year, but this year especially, they have a good enough offense. We're really excited that Jorge Soler is an all-star. But yeah, their pitching's always impressed me. I've always thought they've had like a Tampa Bay Rays light bullpen where you've never heard of these guys, but they're running like 2 ERAs.
Yeah, and I mean, one of my low-key favorite pitchers is the Jesus Lizard,
I love Jesus
Luzardo.
Yeah. Love that guy.
Yeah, he shoved against the Phillies this weekend.
They got him for Starling
Is he an
Marte.
all-star?
No, he's not. But like that's a great trade.
That's a miss.
But
yeah,
I've seen this a lot on Twitter where Braves fans are like, the Marlins are not a good team. They have a negative run differential. The reason why they have a negative run differential is because against, I think this was before our the Braves series started or right after it ended, but after the Braves series with the Marlins ended, they had like a negative 20 run differential on the season, which is usually indicative that they're not a very good team. But if you subtract the Braves out of it, they have a plus 30 run differential. So against every other team in baseball, they might be performing a little better than expected, but a plus 30 run differential is an over 500 team. Against the Braves, they're just absolutely annihilated. I tweeted this, I think, from our Twitter account, but against the Marlins this weekend or last weekend, the Braves scored 29 runs. The Marlins and the Braves have played 10 games this season, and in the 10 games, the Marlins have also scored 29 runs. So the Marlins just cannot compete with the Braves.
The Braves are pretty much going to be the Marlins' white whale.
Yeah.
For the perceivable future. They, there used to be this saying in the NL East, back when I would say there was more parity than there is now, around 2019 through 2021, where the key to winning the division is who can beat up on the Marlins the most. And obviously now the Marlins aren't that team. They're not bottom feeders, but the Braves didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
The Braves don't care.
The Marlins had in game 1 Brian Hoen pitch, and Hoen at the time had like a sub-2 ERA, and now after 2 bad starts in a row, it's like approaching 5. They faced Yuri Perez, who
it's funny if you were like you're just solely a Braves fan, which glad that you're listening to us. But all you did was watch Braves baseball. I think you would be convinced that the Marlins have one of the worst pitching staffs in the league.
Yeah, they're actually really good at pitching. Like, they are so good at pitching that they traded an all-star pitcher. Pablo Lopez made the all-star team this year. They traded an all-star pitcher for Luis Arias because they're like, we have enough pitching. We're good. We just need a hitter.
Yeah, one of the best win-win trades.
So Yuri Perez goes against the Braves in game 2, and he only gets 1 out. I went,
and he was just to set this up too. Yuri Perez was coming into this game with a 21 inning scoreless streak. So this wasn't. I mean, he's 20 years old, but he's one of the game's top young pitchers. And I mean, as a baseball fan, I was personally excited.
Yeah, I was really excited for that game,
just because I heard so much. Like you said, gets 1 out, can't even get out of the first inning. Braves just bombard him.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad.
Pretty much everybody was just, game starts before you even blink. Acuna and Albies go back to back, which that's always a special sight, and then pretty much just double after single, and like hard hit balls too. I mean, these weren't flukes.
It was brutal to watch. He had a good start against the Cardinals this past weekend, or like past week, and then the Marlins optioned him down to AAA to limit his innings. He's a good pitcher. I'm scared for the next few years because he's like 6'7", 101 fastball, tons of spins, tons of extension. But at least in this game, the Braves got him. Yeah, not much else to say about this, unless Cole, you had anything else to add, except that the Marlins had starters allowed 17 earned runs in 9 innings.
Yeah, I said it on the last episode. Let's show them who their big brother is. They came in as hot as a team can be into that series and got humbled, which, they'll have their day. They're still very much work in progress. It's just the Braves are.
And after saying all of this, they're going to play the
work.
Braves in like the NLDS or the NLCS, and they're going to kick the Braves' asses, and we're going to be like, oh shit, where did that come from? Because that's how baseball works, But
yeah.
Moving on to the Guardian series, the Braves go to Cleveland.
It's like we have even less to say about this one.
They lost a game in extra innings. They lost game 2. That ended a 9-game winning streak. The Braves won game 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Soroka.
Kirby Yates blew the game. Soroka had a really
game.
interesting start. Got out of it, I think 4 1/3, 4 2/3. No earned runs, but his whip was a 3. I mean, he basically
had
every
2 base
inning
runners on. Yeah.
there was at least 2 runners on. So a very lopsided start, but I will say his demeanor was good. I mean, he locked in whenever runners were on. I mean, he did not allow a single run for 2/3 inning. You say that, you're like, okay, that was a good Soroka start. Why'd only pitch 4 in a third inning though?
I think did the right thing. He kept him in as long as he felt like he could, but he wasn't trying. That's something that I feel like Snicker has changed since he's become manager. Back when he first got hired, he would be that get the pitcher to the 5th inning so he can get a win. But like the past 2 weeks, Colby Aller didn't go 5 innings, even though he was dominant. Soroka didn't go 5 innings, even though he hadn't allowed a run. But Snicker knew, it's time.
Yeah. He did do it in a way with Strider against the Rays. I don't want to get too much into it, Do you have it before we move on?
No,
I
we
mean,
can
do you have
move on.
anything else
Like
to say about
this
the
Guardian
series?
series is something that I won't remember in a month. So
Yeah, 2 out of 3 against a good team.
this first game to the
Um,
Rays series was really bizarre. The Braves only had 2 hits. They had 3 base runners the entire game. Matt Olson was 2 of those base runners, and it didn't matter. They won 2-1. Sean Murphy hit a 2-run homer, and then the Braves were able to manage a bunch of infield hits against the Rays. The Rays had 2 guys who aren't normally base stealers try to steal bases off Sean Murphy. Horrible idea. And yeah.
I will say this too, to contradict what you just said. I love how aggressive the Rays are on the base paths. To try to steal twice against Sean Murphy is ill-advised, but even during this series, the amount of times I saw them take third on an infield out, just kind of forcing the infield to make a play.
Yeah.
It just makes for fun baseball, even if sometimes you get stuff like Game 1 where you basically blow 2 very vital base runners because you think you can run on Sean Murphy.
So this next game I didn't actually get to see. I've actually seen more Washington Nationals innings in the last 3 days than Braves innings.
For shame.
I did get a Harry Potter scarf out of it, so I think it was worth it. Tell us about.
You did also see the Nationals win a series against the Rangers too.
Yeah, that was weird. That was really. I don't know how to describe that.
Rangers haven't won a series since I think mid-June.
They're having their Metsing.
That's kind of. I didn't realize this. I should have done maybe a little bit more research. I knew that the Rays had cooled off since they started the year like 29-7 or something insane. I didn't know the extent to which they cooled off. They've basically been a 500 team for about a month and a half, if not 2 months. So they're still a good team, don't get me wrong, but basically blowing through your entire pitching staff is going to eventually catch up. And this version of the Rays that we saw this weekend wasn't the same team that started the year 13-0. I mean, we saw Taj Bradley the second game where we probably would have seen like Jeffrey Springs or Drew Rasmussen or even Shane McClanahan if he was healthy. So still a good team, but had I maybe done some more research, I probably would have said we would take 2 out of 3.
I mean, I did.
I
think
also
we were
was
taking 2 out of 3. But
I was also recommending like we sit half our players.
I
too,
really
so
did wish
today
that
drinking.
the Braves would have sat their guys after they went down 10-4.
Ronald was having a frustrating series. I think he could have used just a day off before the All-Star break. That's a long flight too, to Seattle. It's the second longest possible flight you could. It only would be longer if they were playing in Miami.
Oof. Oh God.
Yeah. They need to put a team in Portland, man. I feel bad for. I was actually going to have a theory. This is a side tangent, and I guess we've already played the Mariners, so this is the most relevant time to bring this up. I do wonder if the balanced schedule has screwed the Mariners over, because in years past they would play the Oakland Athletics more. They would play teams more regionalized, but now that they have to go to take more East Coast trips, I do wonder if their travel schedule is the most grueling out of every team, and that's why they've
it has to be
been the way they are. I was thinking about that. That was like a car thought I had a couple weeks ago, because I'm like, yeah, they're just kind of isolated up there anyway, and that's been a noted issue for the Mariners.
Not many
and now with the balanced schedule,
teams have players and coaches walk away because of the distance.
Yeah.
But
and now they're like, we have to go to New York twice.
Yeah. So Game 2,
long flight.
Spencer Strider dominated. I watched the first 2 batters where he allowed a single and a double, and then I had dinner plans. I can't believe I missed this game.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I was gonna text you too. I was gonna say something to the extent of like Strider's gonna have like one of his games because he was topping out at 99.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to build up to it because the start against the Marlins, his velocity was dipping a little bit, but he was going to that changeup more, and so I think Strider is kind of making what we were talking about, those adjustments of, if my fastball is not able to hit this mark, what can I do to work around that? And we saw basically Strider, at his on an off day against the Marlins, and still, six innings, 2 earned runs, and then we saw him when he was on against the Rays on Saturday, which was
don't have this in the
6
notes
1/3, 11
anywhere,
Ks.
but the last 2 podcasts we're like, should we be concerned about Spencer Strider? And then last one we're like, I think he's back, but we'll keep an eye on it. He's back, man. He.
Yeah.
I can't believe I ever had like an ounce of doubt that he wouldn't pull through those 2 bad starts.
I mean, some days you're just not going to have it, and I think he now is understanding how to navigate those starts, and he's going to have it. I mean, I think 8 out of 10 times he's
like, I'm not going to say that he's going to have
99.
like a sub 1. He's not going to go 1968 Bob Gibson for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But he's not going to have a 3.6 ERA at the end of the year. His ERA is going to be close to where you're going to be like, should this man be a Cy Young winner? And as we should know better by now that Spencer Strider makes adjustments. He wasn't going to let himself be bad. But that was exciting. And then today, the last game before the All-Star break, the Braves got reminded that, you can't win every game. And I don't know, I didn't really watch it, but I'm not mad about a 10-2 12-game stretch.
And just to, I don't know if I said this already, so apologies if I'm repeating myself. Do you know the last game where the Braves have lost by more than a run before today?
Was it like exactly a month ago?
It was June 11th against the Nationals when we lost 6-2, which I believe was also an Elder Day.
I think you're right.
Either Elder
it was either
or Smith-Jobber.
Schuster or Elder.
Yeah. Yeah. So we almost went a month without losing a game by more than a run, which is just
that shouldn't happen. That should
insane.
never happen.
Yeah. I mean, and we can kind of go into this when we do the first half awards and predictions, but we're at a point now where when you first start getting into the game, you see the highlights. You hear about the 1975 Reds, the Big Red Machine, or the 1927 Yankees, Murderers Row, who had Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and that was it. And you hear about all these teams, and you're always like asking yourself, like, when's the next one going to be? Like, when's like this next great team going to come along? And I honest to God, I think we're seeing it right before our eyes. I mean, this team is every facet is working.
Yeah, and
right now.
we don't even have Max Fried back. He just started his rehab assignment today.
Quick Max Fried update. He went an inning and a third. Don't freak out when you hear those numbers. It was just to get him on a mound, just to get him facing, competitive hitting before the All-Star break. So reports I was hearing, he looked good. He topped out at 96. That's exactly where you want to see him. I would say he would probably have one more rehab start. I think they'll ramp. They mentioned kind of just having almost like a second spring training. They're going to ramp him up. So I would say he's going to be back. Do you think he'll be back by the time we do our next episode?
I think he needs.
Do you think
he needs 2 more ramp-up starts at least. He needs to get to 3 innings and then to 5 innings. And they might be doing it by pitch, so he needs to go from like 30 to 50 to 80, and then he'll need to have at least one start where he's at like 100.
Yeah, so I'd say late July then. and to use an old baseball adage, it's like getting a trade deadline acquisition.
Oh my God!
It's like making a big trade.
Did I hear Chip Carey somewhere?
Is that Chip?
Man.
God,
I didn't know we had Chip Carey on this podcast. Quick aside, I wasn't a huge Chip Carey fan. I wasn't one of the biggest Chip Carey haters. I've really enjoyed Brendan Gaudin, but I really just want to pour one out for poor Chip Carey, who decided to leave the Braves for probably the best season of Braves history for one of the worst seasons in Cardinals history. Could not have picked a worse time.
It's I heard it's getting pretty bad.
I just want to say sorry, Chip. You picked
the
a terrible time to leave.
Yeah, and we have the phrase "poor Larry a crown."
Oh God.
For Chip, it's pour him a bottle of like the strongest gin you have, so he can forget this Cardinals season.
Do you want two quick things before the break? Do you want to talk about first inning success and homer streak?
Let's do first inning success, homer and streak. So, I don't know if anybody on this podcast knows this or not, but the Braves are pretty good in the first inning, specifically on offense.
I didn't know this. Tell me. Yeah. Tell me more.
Matt Olson said it best when he said, "Hey, it all starts with Ronald, one of the best leadoff, the best. I mean, the best. I don't know why I'm having to use work around it. The best leadoff hitter in the game." So the record. So this is the all-time record post the world, since they've been playing World Series. The record for most first inning runs was 160. That was the 1950 Red Sox that had names such as Ted Williams and Dom DiMaggio and Vern Stevens, who I'm going to do a video on one day because he is one of the most underrated shortstops of all time. I don't know why I only heard of him while doing the Derek Jeter video. So they ended up scoring 1,440 runs. All right, sorry. Never mind. That's ridiculous. Yeah, never mind. I'm reading the wrong thing. They ended up setting the record, though, for most runs scored, or being in the top 10 for most runs scored in a single season. The 1,440 was the pace for first inning runs.
I was about to say, that is impressive. Yeah. And 100
I was like
10 runs per inning.
Yeah, I was reading that. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, so the Braves currently, we just updated this today, are on pace for 165.6, so you could round it up to 166, which would beat the Red Sox record by 6 runs, which is, again, insane. That was a team with a few Hall of Famers, and really, I mean, this is the kind of company that we are in right now. The highest it was funny when because I brought this up to Mitchell last week that we were going to do this, and I just put the Cardinals, the nationally record, because we were slightly lagging behind, and now we're pretty much set to break it if we continue at this pace. So another thing I thought was interesting too, just to show how much differently the Braves lineup is constructed than these teams in years past. So a couple months ago, I created a silly stat. I like to come up with stats for the common man, stuff that's not really gonna, get me a feature on Fangraphs or anything, but stuff that I just think is fun to quickly take a glance at and say, hey, that makes sense. But I created the stat called SAS, slugging and stealing. I'm actually going to rename it to Slugfast. I think that's a much better name. A Twitter user suggested that one. I was like, that's the name of it. Yeah, it's so much better. Basically, it's just a player's slugging percentage, but you add a total base for every stolen base and then take one away for caught stealing. A lot of people are like, that doesn't seem like a big enough punishment for just taking away one for caught stealing. The way I compare it is like, if you try to stretch a single into a double and you're thrown out, you still get credit for the single. So I'm actually maybe giving a little too much credit. So, I would say like a good slugfast is like 500. That's a good baseline, good place to start. Vern Stevens, the primary leadoff hitter for the 1950 Red Sox, had a slugfast of 512. And then the National League record holder, 2000 Cardinals, their primary leadoff hitter was Fernando Vina, who had a slugfest of 402. Ron Acuna currently has a slugfast of 677, which is insane. I know that leadoff hitters are treated a lot differently nowadays. It used to be, we'd get the Juan Pierre types. We'd get just kind of the scrappy, would steal you a lot of bases, but would hit maybe like 5 homers the entire season. But Ron Acuna does both. He
have you ever done a Ricky Henderson one? Like, what was Ricky's best season? Because I think a lot of listeners don't realize that Ricky had some pop.
He did. Yeah, it was never like 30 homer power, but I mean like 25, 30 range. I think a Twitter user came up with it, and I think his best was, I think, in the 700s.
I mean, when you steal 130 bases a year,
just because, yeah.
Ricky, man, what a dude.
That was a different time.
So, in addition to...
Do you want to go over the home run streak?
This is going to be brief. In addition to the Braves' first inning success, the Braves hit a lot of homers. I thank God every day that my favorite team has bought into my favorite philosophy. I shudder at the thought of being like a Royals fan growing up, because I love homers. I love when ball go boom. And it just so happens that my childhood favorite team, my lifelong favorite team, has also bought into the ball go boom philosophy. It's made it really easy. But this year they're doing it at a rate that just is absurd. They're, I think, 5 homers ahead of pace to beat the 2019 Twins record for homers.
They're on pace for 312, and the record is 307.
But they also hit homers every game. And that is not an exaggeration, because the Braves have homered in 26 consecutive games. That broke their own franchise record, which I think, if I just saw, it was 1999. That surprised me. I would have expected it to be like that 2003 team with Gary Sheffield. The MLB record is 31, set by the Yankees in 2019 with the juice balls. The thing about the Braves too is, like, they're not relying on 3 hitters to hit a home run. It's not like Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna Jr. or bust. The past 3 days have been carried by the catchers. Murphy hit 1 in game 1 and 2. d'Arnaud hit 1 today. You look up and down the lineup. Even when Pilar is in the lineup against lefties, he has more homers than Tim Anderson. I mean, everyone has more homers than Tim Anderson. But they came into the season with the exact amount of home runs. They both had 97 home runs, career home runs. Pilar has well surpassed that. Anderson not so much, and Anderson has 3 times the plate appearances as Pilar.
Just the Tim Anderson hate. Wow.
This is just to point out that the Braves have guys up and down the lineup. Acuna, Albies, Olson, Riley, Murphy, Ozuna, Rosario, Arcia, Harris. Every single one of them can hit a home run. I mean, Arcia, he's probably the Braves' weakest power hitter. He goes deep against Alcantara. Last year, he hit a home run off of Shohei Ohtani. Like, everybody in this lineup can hit homers. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm trying not to take it for granted. But when this streak is over, I don't expect the Braves to hit a home run in every single game for the rest of the season. I have to admit,
and just to give, this, just our simple brains, we like seeing the ball hit
go boom
very far. Like you said, ball go boom.
Best thing on earth.
It's a great philosophy. Current paces coming into today, Matt Olson is on pace for 53. Albies is on pace for 42.
I don't know how he does it.
To think about Acuna is on pace for. We didn't even talk about his homer against Alcantara. He literally just dumped it into the right field. I mean, it was like 343.
He's a chop house
merchant.
Literally,
like,
he really is.
Kind of is. Yeah, he kind of is. He would. Well, I don't want to say that, but Acuna's on pace for 39, and then there's one other player who's on pace for 30. Murphy is on pace for 31, which I don't think he's going to play enough games.
I don't think he needs the games.
But the
he
catcher
just hits so many homers.
Yeah, yeah. But the Braves catching tandem is on pace for something after this weekend, something like 45 homers, which is insane.
I mean, I'm still thinking it's been 3 weeks, and I'm still thinking about that d'Arnaud 474 homer. Yeah. And that's the backup catcher.
Yeah, maybe.
I have a shout out for him later in this episode, but man, I love Travis d'Arnaud. Just comes off the bench mashing.
Awesome. So we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to go over. Mitchell's going to apologize.
I have 2 apologies
to a few of our players, and then we're going to go over first half awards and then predictions for the second half. So stay tuned, and we will see y'all on the other side. And we are back. Part 2 of this week's episode of BravesKast. So yeah, Mitchell called me at like 3 a.m. last night, just crying on the phone. He was so filled with so much sorrow and grief and guilt, and so he told me everything, and I just had said, hey, we'll give you 5 minutes on tomorrow's episode of BravesKast to spill everything out. So I think you owe some players on the Braves a personal apology.
I owe a few players on the Braves an apology. Cole almost didn't let me do this. I was distraught. But eventually he was like, fine. I guess we can make time on this podcast, but it better be good. So I write for the house that Hank built, formerly Tomahawk Take, and back in November or December we had a most X'd article going around. And when we got to the most disappointing player in 2022, I said Matt Olson, because I didn't think there were a lot of disappointments from the season, besides losing to the Phillies, but the playoffs are a crapshoot. But I had a lot of high expectations for Matt Olson in 2022, and there was just this stretch from August to like mid-September where he was worse than a pitcher. And so when we did the player preview podcasts, I had more optimistic notes for Matt Olson, but I was skeptical of his performance coming into the season. I owe Matt Olson an apology. Matt Olson, I am so sorry. I was very wrong about you. You are very good at baseball. You will probably set the Atlanta Braves franchise record for home runs in the season. You're funny. You're fun. I love having you on this team, especially when you leg out a triple and no one on the team believes that it was your second triple of the season. Matt Olson, you have a 144 WRC plus as of yesterday. I think it might be slightly higher. You're an all-star. I was wrong. Hope you accept this apology from me. So that's apology number 1.
And then we got to go across the diamond.
Apology number 2. This is a shorter apology, but when we were doing all-star predictions last podcast 2 weeks ago, I guessed that the Braves would have 8 all-stars, and I was right. The Braves had 8 all-stars. I was right about 7 of them. I was hoping Jesse Chavez would come back and he would make the all-star team. He did not. But during the all-star predictions, I said, Austin Riley, no, he's not going to be an all-star. There's no shot. What I didn't realize was how weak third base is this year, and how much players value past success. Austin Riley's had a good season. He's actually really come around on defense, but Austin Riley is an all-star, definitively an all-star. I thought he had no shot at it. I clearly have no idea what I'm talking about, and I should not have dismissed his all-star potential so flippantly. Austin Riley, I'm so sorry that I didn't think you would be an all-star this year.
And I might be apologizing to Austin Riley in 2 weeks myself, because even though the crop of third basemen this year is relatively weak, I would say there's maybe a few guys that should have made the All-Star team over him, but it's neither here nor there. JD Davis. So I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad. I'm glad to see him in Seattle. I'm glad to see the entire Braves infield on the All-Star team.
Yeah, before Dansby got
cool.
hurt, I was really hoping that the Braves would, or the NL All-Star, it's basically the Braves. The NL All-Star infield would be Freddie, Ozzie, Dansby, and Austin Riley one last time. Dansby's heel did not get the memo.
Did not.
So he's not going to be playing. But for a split second, I thought we'd see the old crew back together.
Yeah.
Last year, I was really hoping for Freddie to get
heist.
a single.
Yeah.
So he could headbutt Eric Young, but that didn't happen either. So basically, I don't get what I want with the All-Star team. I just get very close to what I want, and that's okay. Just a quick note before we hand out awards. Nicole and I have different awards and some of the same awards. But before we get to that, a quick note about the All-Star starter, Orlando Arcia. He's had a weird month.
Yeah.
So from June 9 until July 7?
Yeah, July 7th,
No,
July 8th.
He had like a 72 WRC plus. He had 4 hitless games in a row without reaching base. He had a 2.4 WAR, I think, before that month began, and now it's down to like 1.9. But then in the month of July, which includes that span of time, he had 100 and like 1 WRC plus. I don't know.
He also, hey, you know what? He's also playing amazing defense. I mean, that play, we didn't even mention the play with, I mean, if you haven't seen it at least 50 times, go watch it.
Cole, you should put that in the break time. Just throw
the
that
play
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arcia, and so it was the game against the Twins, the Joe Ryan game. Ozzie Albies makes a diving stop, and he probably could have gone up and made, I think, I mean, I don't think it was like
he just has a weak arm. He knows his arm.
Yeah. So makes a dive for the ball. All his momentum's going towards shortstop. Arcia is coming in, and Ozzie just basically for the assist, just like throws the ball up to Arcia and lets Arcia make the throw. That kind of just like that kind of, I'm not going to use that word. That kind of just relationship that they have, that sixth sense that they have together as teammates, you can't really train that. I mean, you can't really learn that. That's just, they have something special going on, Ozzie and Arcia.
Yeah, in the slow-mo, you look at Orlando and he's expecting it. Like,
yeah,
it was not a shock that Ozzie flipped it.
Apparently, they talked about making a play like that earlier in the week. So that was actually... What's funny with baseball is you can't plan stuff on defense. Like, you just got to play where the ball is hit. But apparently they did go over it. Ron Washington was like, I'd never seen them practice it. So I think they just kind of were like, hey, if I make a dive and stop, if you wanted to, because Arcia, like you said, was expecting it. I mean, he was running towards, he wasn't trying to back up anything. He was just running towards.
Ready for that
flip. I mean, he had all his momentum going towards first. So I think one of the best plays you're going to see, I mean, that's going to be a play that you're going to see in highlight reels.
I watched it like 4 times.
Years to come.
I went straight to it when I woke up the next morning. Just an insane play. Overall, though, just a quick, that's a quick note. Orlando Arcia is struggling, except maybe he's not. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I like I said, I think his defense gives him a baseline value anyway. He made a great play in the Guardian series, diving up or just going up the middle, and then just basically doing, was it called a janitor's catch from shallow center field, rolled over afterwards. Great play. I mean, just the energy that he brings to the team. I would say he's
I love
probably he might be low key. I don't think he's like the leader of the clubhouse. I think he's actually more of the class clown of the clubhouse. They were interviewing
Yeah, I was
Ozzy.
concerned about him when Guillermo got let go, but he seems to have recovered.
Well, even today they're interviewing Ozzy in the clubhouse, and you just hear Arcia in the back making owl sounds. So he's just great. I mean, even if he's struggling a little bit, I mean he's up there, top of the ledge, day in day out, rooting for his teammates. So we love Arcia. Sucks that Dansby had to go play for the Chicago Cubs and get overpaid by them.
Make a lot of money and be in the same city that his wife plays in. Just horrible,
Yeah, how dare
that just must suck. First half awards, Cole. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do. I say we just kind of go back and forth. We fire them off. We'll start with you go first, and then we'll just switch off from there.
So I am giving my MVP. This is gonna shock people. I don't know if they're ready for this, but I think the MVP of the first half of 2023 is Ronald Acuna Jr.
Whoa!
I know that's a hot
take.
You
don't say.
But I can't imagine. I had to really debate between Ronald Acuna Jr. and so I landed on Ronald Acuna Jr. and
well,
really bold take by me.
I mean, what? I advertised this show and I said, hey, we do drop the occasional spicy take, and that might be the spiciest take we've ever.
I don't think we're gonna have a spicier take.
That's got a Scoville rating of like at least 9,000. Mine. So I was trying to do. I didn't want it to be like too predictable or anything. I wanted to have awards that weren't too. What's the word? Just like
cliche.
What's up?
Cliche.
Yeah, not too cliche, but I didn't want to go like, here's my JR Token award for or whatever they're doing on Talking Baseball nowadays. So I'm gonna start with the most surprising, and now when I say most surprising, this can be good or bad. I combine the two. But when your team has 60 wins and is on pace for 111 going into the All-Star break, it would be pretty foolish to have a disappointing player in there. So the most surprising to me was basically a mix of, not a mix, but it was between three players. We have Orlando Arcia, who, we did mention he's struggling a bit, but I mean, did make the All-Star team. I mean, people were mad when he was announced as the starting shortstop for the Braves. Everybody wanted Vaughn Grissom, and look at what he's done for this team. And then from there, we had Bryce Elder, who, again, if you go back to one of our preseason episodes when we talked about the potential fifth starter, we put it between Michael Soroka, Ian Anderson, and Bryce Elder. I think we talked about Bryce Elder for maybe 2 minutes, and it was a 50-minute episode. And then the last one was Sean Murphy, who, when we traded for him, we were expecting, great defense and a good bat. We didn't expect him to be Johnny Bench. We didn't expect him to have nearly a 1. OPS going into the All-Star break. Just his game has been taken. So, again, we're expecting good. We got elite, and that's what made his first half so surprising. But I'm going to go with Bryce Elder. With Sean Murphy, you could see his Savant page for the previous years and convince yourself that you could have seen this coming. I mean, there's a couple people out there who are like, I mean, he could put up a 999 OPS in the first half. And then Arcia, like I said, he struggled a little bit, and it does seem like he's coming back to earth, where, again, I mean, we're paying him $3 million this year. I think we're going to get a little above that, but
we've gotten double the production of his entire contract pretty much.
But we've seen him for a couple of years, and we've seen him go on hot streaks. I mean, we've seen him go on absolute tears. I think his biggest difference this year is just kind of coasting off of that. And, I mean, he's one of those guys that could have just gone like a silent 0 for 13, which he hasn't done this year, and that's why he's been so good. But for Bryce Elder, I mean, until today, he came into today's game as the NL ERA leader. last year, he did have the only complete game for a Brave. Granted, it was against the Nationals. He was just the guy that we basically threw in against bottom 5 offenses. We just said, hey, go at him. But he's done it against good teams this year. He had that performance against the Phillies, where it was like 7 innings, 1 earned run against a really tough offense. Against the Dodgers, against all these good. I can't think of. I don't know if he pitched against the Rangers, but he's
pulled through. He continues to defy the odds.
That's another thing too. It's like when you look under the hood, there's nothing that really stands out to you, which I think puts him over the edge of being the most surprising player, in my opinion. So, all right. Who is your Cy Young Award winner?
Quickly, most disappointing. Oh, I'll just do the most surprising, most disappointing as well.
Cool.
So, quickly, just most disappointing. Sorry, Dylan Dodd. I don't think you're quite ready this year. I don't expect you to have any more starts this year.
Yeah.
If the rotation is healthy.
Embarrassment of riches.
I thought he'd be a little better than a 6 FIP. But yeah, I also had a most surprising on my list. Kind of the same thought process, except I only think about hitters, except for Spencer Strider. So this is to be expected. One honorable mention is Marcell Ozuna, because
I didn't. Yeah.
Personal issues aside, I thought he was toast.
Yeah.
I really thought he was toast. In late April, I thought he was toast. And now, you can't really take him out of the lineup, and he's become a mentor in the clubhouse. In terms of just like baseball things, I don't know if I trust him for non-baseball things, but at least in the baseball realm, he sat down Michael Harris and he was like, "Hey, you got to remember that you're like the best center fielder in baseball." And Michael Harris went, "Oh yeah, I am." And he went from having like a 40 WRC plus to a 95 WRC plus in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And this was in June. It's not like early April. And then Matt Olson was like, "Oh yeah, I was having a hard time a couple of weeks ago," and Ozuna was just like, "Hey, you got to do this." And he went, "Oh, you know what? I think I can." And that's when he hit all of the home runs against the Reds and the Twins and whatnot. So shout out to him. Shout out to Arcia. But it has to be Murphy for me, because I couldn't wrap my little brain around the fact that we would trade our only tradable asset, William Contreras. I do miss some Billy Bombs, if I'm going to be completely honest. I'm happy he's doing well in Milwaukee. But he was a fun player. I loved watching him hit home runs. And to trade him along with all of those prospects in a very depleted farm system for a position that we didn't really need.
Mm-hmm.
Travis d'Arnaud is... I have an award for him down at the very end. Travis d'Arnaud is a very good player. William Contreras is a very good player, and the Braves at the time looked like they needed a DH and a left fielder. But I am not Alex Anthopoulos. I don't have that brain to realize that Sean Murphy is going to pick up some MVP votes this year. The thing I love about Murphy, though, is that he just swings as hard as he can. And he hits the ball very hard, and it goes over the fence. I was not expecting that.
He takes daddy hacks. I mean, it sounds different coming off of his bat, which I was not expecting that kind of player. Not that I was expecting him to be like a light hitting catcher, but I mean, his career high in homers coming this year.
4 WAR
at
the All-Star break is not something I had in the cards.
I mean, like I said, the Braves catching tandem is basically Mike Piazza with defense at this point. All right. My next one is most overlooked, and just the background for this award was, I mean, baseball is a very regional sport. A lot of people just really pay attention to their own team, and that's it. A lot of people get their information on other teams when their team is playing them. So this whole award is just, if you're an outsider and you're looking at the Braves, who as we as Braves fans would say, this is like the guy that you don't think about him. He's not going to be on, the top of the post or anything. He's not going to be, a headliner, but he's really been one of our biggest keys this year. And the reason I chose Charlie Morton for this award was that not only do I think he gets overlooked often by the casual baseball fan, even in his prime, but the average Braves fan underrates Charlie Morton. I still see people on Twitter and TikTok who are like, it's Charlie Morton bump day, like automatic loss. He's I would say he's been our second best pitcher. Well, okay, tied for our second best pitcher. I would say he and Spencer Strider pretty much kind of, the raw results have been the same. They do it in different ways. And something I want to note too is that, and I have it here in the notes, I have 3 pitching lines this year. You'll see the first one has an ERA plus a 116. The second one has an ERA plus a 103. And the third has an ERA plus of 130. The first 2 of those lines with the ERA plus of 116 and 103 are making a combined $83 million this year. While the third one is Charlie Morton, who is roughly the same age as them. And obviously I'm talking about Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer of the New York Mets. They're roughly the same age. And a lot of people have been pointing out how age has caught up to Scherzer and Verlander. I think the jury's still out. I think to say that they're washed is kind of silly. Let's talk when it's the end of the year. But Morton age has not affected him at all. He is still, I would say, in his old man prime. So I just thought that was...
realize how much better Charlie Morton has been this year than Verlander and Scherzer.
And he's doing it for half the price. So
yeah, I think some casual Braves fans, this is your award, but I'm going to butt in and add some commentary.
Do it.
Some casual Braves fans, they absolutely cannot wrap their minds around why Alex Anthopoulos would pay Charlie Morton $20 million a year, as if the starting free agent market is much cheaper. And also that even without the results, Charlie Morton is someone you want in your clubhouse. He's the perfect mentor for starting pitchers, young starting pitchers. Not only because he is a very good starting pitcher, but he has probably had the most struggles of any eventually successful starting pitcher ever. Charlie Morton had 7 bad years. Charlie Morton was a bad pitcher for 7 years. And I think that kind of experience to have in the clubhouse where, let's say Spencer Strider has another bad start, Charlie Morton's like, hey, dude, I had like 100 of those.
Yeah.
No one wanted me. I signed a cheap deal in Philadelphia, and then Houston was like, oh, I think we have something. And Charlie Morton knows how to make adjustments. Like, he didn't just keep doing the same thing for 7 years. Once he got to Philadelphia and then Houston, he made some of the biggest adjustments as a pitcher that you can ever make as a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
And so, even without the success, I want Charlie Morton in the clubhouse.
Yeah. Especially, whenever you're watching a Braves game and you see one of the younger guys pitch, whether it be Elder, AJ Smith-Shawver, after they're done, the first person you see them go to is Charlie. I mean, he is either him or Cranny. He's basically like having another coach on the team, and I think you're completely right.
I see it. The Braves are paying him like $15 million to be a pitcher, and he's doing well above $15 million of work as a pitcher, and then they're paying him like $5 million as a coach, and he's doing $5 million worth of work as a coach.
Yeah,
Anthopoulos gets enough credit, but I'm gonna go ahead and give him more. He knows how to build a team. He knows, like, a guy like Jesse Chavez in the clubhouse, a guy like Charlie Morton in the clubhouse, incredibly valuable for a young team.
I love the not the wicker, the epitaph they made of Jesse Chavez in the bullpen.
Yeah,
like I remember the Joe Ryan game. I just see them like bring it out every time somebody hits a home run.
And even once he was back, they were carrying him out. I love analytics with baseball. But, some of those old fans who, stick to RBIs and when pitchers wins, they have a point when it comes to clubhouse building, and Charlie Morton is that guy.
Yeah.
So with the best pitcher for the Braves, it really is tough to go FIP versus ERA performances. Just because I prefer FIP, but you can't underestimate the value of already in the bank runs allowed. So this was a hard one because I think Bryce Elder deserves a lot of credit. This start aside, but like Cole was saying, he was doing great work against good teams this year. But I think at the end of the day, if you take those 13 earned runs away from Spencer Strider, he's been I don't know if I don't want to say the most, but I think one of the most dominant starters in the major leagues this season, maybe even within the past couple of seasons. He just broke the Braves record for most strikeouts before the All-Star break. He's on pace to break the most home or strikeouts per 9 innings. Before the season, Cole and I predicted over under 270 strikeouts. He is well on the over. I just can't fathom it, and so Strider gets our Cy Young award.
Yeah. I have nothing to add. I mean, he strikes out a lot of guys.
I mean, I think your next award goes well with this.
Oh, yeah, it really does. So, best single game performance. This could be for a hitter or a pitcher, and I didn't even have to think about it. To continue off of Mitchell's point, Spencer Strider on April 24th against the Miami Marlins took a perfect game into the 6th inning, lost it on a Matt Olson error, and then he took into the 7th.
Yeah.
And then he took the no-hitter into the 8th inning before losing it on just a Gene Segura. I mean, basically Gene Segura was cheating, I think, on the slider low, and I mean, there was
just
I
threw the bat.
Should have looked. I should have looked back and seen how many three pitch strikeouts he got in that game. I know it was at least like 4.
I think it was like 8.
Something
it was absurdly
silly.
high because he had a low pitch count going into the 8th.
Yeah, game score of 91. What would you say is like 80 is like a dominant start. And the greatest game score of all time is like low 100s, like 104, 105. So amazing game. Yeah, I was against the Marlins. Yeah, Luis Ariz wasn't in the lineup that day, but I mean, if you were watching Spencer Strider in the ballpark, which I was, you would know that he had everything
almost
working
didn't
that
make
night.
That game.
I actually only went to that game to get this poster, and I'm very glad that it was Chipper Jones' birthday.
I still am upset by the Matt Olson error and the Gene Segura little hit because I've been waiting. It's the last thing on my white whale, a no-hitter, Braves no-hitter, and Spencer Strider came as close as you could come.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go off the wall grid and just kind of do some silly awards. Most likely to break your heart, Orlando Arcia. It's just something about the way he wears that hat under his ears. There's just something else. You don't know what you're gonna get. I love Orlando, but you can't trust someone who wears your hat wears your ears under your hat. And then Cole has the best moment of the year.
Best moment again. I mean, it literally it made you put on a tinfoil hat because of how perfectly set up this moment was. June 8th, Ozzie Albies walk-off homer against the Mets. It was the Braves legacy broadcast night with Chipper Jones, Jeff Francoeur, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine in the booth. Poor Larry Crown, one of the best calls of all time.
was so skeptical about that broadcasting crew because I love Jeff Francoeur. I think Francoeur is actually a great
He's awesome.
broadcaster.
Yeah.
Whenever he talks about his playing career, he makes fun of himself, and it's like
Yeah.
he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah. He's such a good guy.
John Smoltz, on the other hand, does take himself too seriously and is a very big hater on the modern game. Tom Glavine's just kind of, he's kind of there. And Chipper Jones has no experience as a broadcaster. I went back and watched those highlights for the broadcasting a few times. It was a great crew. And of course, that was just a weird game.
That was a really
It could
weird
not
game.
have ended better.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you were convinced that they brought out the juice balls for, again, what was effectively just still a regional broadcast. It's not like they were pulling in national viewership with that one.
I think the highlights brought in extra viewers. Yeah, I think in terms of Braves broadcasting calls in my lifetime history, it's poor Larry Crown at number 1, and then that ball is going supersonic by Ben Ingram on the Jorge Soler call. So yeah, best moment by far this season. Most likely to chill and get coffee with you. I want to have coffee with Jesse Chavez. Jesse, if you watch this, Cole and I would love some tickets to Braves games. We'd love to sit down, get some coffee with you because not many people pull off hats. Michael Harris does. Jesse Chavez definitely does. I think sitting and having coffee with him.
And Jesse, just to sweeten the pot, I am within walking distance of Truist, and I do have a coffee shop in my complex. So, I mean, it works out perfect. We could grab a coffee. We could, we could walk to the stadium, catch a game. I mean, I know.
Just tell us your secrets. How have you done it? Because I don't know how many people can make me a hater as a kid and as a reliever just stick around long enough that in my mid-20s now I'm your biggest fan. So please get coffee with us, Jesse Chavez.
Yeah, tell us about that one time you vacationed in Los Angeles during the season a few years ago. I mean, we would love to catch up.
Tell us what it's like to get traded by almost every team in baseball.
Yeah. What was your favorite city to play in? Who was the best manager you've ever played for? Who was the best reliever like in the clubhouse? Like who was the best clubhouse guy?
How did you know you could pull off wearing glasses on the mound? Not many pitchers can do that.
Hopefully the leg's feeling better. I know he was walking with a cane. Reports last week was he was still walking with a cane.
Yeah.
I bet he was walking with like the doing the biggest pimp walk
in the world.
Yeah, like he probably had like the best pimp walk going for him. I mean that cane probably like rivals something you'd see in like a Martin Scorsese film. That I bet he looked with his hat, with his like he probably has like a ploof hat now with the cane, probably walking a suit. Dude, he can make anything look cool. I love Jesse Chavez. That's a good award.
And we gotta get that coffee.
Reliever my last one is reliever I trust the most. This isn't necessarily best reliever. It's just who this year I was coming the game and my nerves are calmed. I feel at ease. I feel zen when they're pitching. And Arcia Iglesias has given me a lot of anxiety. Kirby Yates, don't even get me started on Kirby Yates. Nick Anderson, I know the numbers don't pop out at you, but it seems like whenever he has a blow-up start, there is a cushion there. I think he does amp his stuff up. He's been severely injured before. I mean, he pretty much missed all of last year and 2021 too, and he was an elite reliever for the Rays and Marlins before that, and he's just one of those guys. Like I trust him. I mean, if we're going on a wild excursion, down the Outer Banks of Alaska, he's the guy I'd want to be leading the charge. So, Nick Anderson, I trust you the most. Not necessarily the best reliever on the team, but definitely the guy that whenever you're on the mound, I'm like, okay, we're in a good spot here. I feel calm.
All right, and then for my last award, team player award. It is the award that you give a guy who's just like, he's on the team, he plays well, but like his biggest contribution is just he is on your team. We've talked about a few guys already, Chavez, Morton, but I think there's no better team player than an all-star in 2022 who gets a phone call from his GM and says, "Hey, we're making you a bench player. We love your stuff. We signed you to an extension before we're making this trade, but effectively you're a bench player, and I hope you're okay with that." And Travis d'Arnaud, I don't know how many people have that little of an ego to go, you know what? Cool. I was one of the best catchers in baseball last year, and now I'm playing every third game, and I'm okay with that. Travis d'Arnaud hits tanks. He is a great guy to have on your team. He basically played every game when Murphy had that hamstring injury last month. But in general, he's only playing once every third game. He can't DH anymore because Marcell Ozuna's too good.
Yeah, it's also important to note, too, that he was the first one to call Sean Murphy when the trade was made. He was the first one to give him the welcome call. So, it's funny. That's actually kind of a hard award just for this team. I mean, there's so many guys. You make a great case for Travis. I think Ozzy, he's, I would say, de facto team leader at this point.
Yeah.
I know a couple years ago, like 2021, he sort of tried to start getting this hard edge. There was that play in Texas where he was like yelling at Ozuna on the base paths. I think he realized that's.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, I think Ozuna deserved.
He did. But I think Ozzy realized that's not the kind of guy he is. I mean, he is definitely a goofball, and you can still lead by example. You don't have to tell people like you have to do this, you have to do that. Dansby, Freddie, and I think he really sets the tone for that clubhouse. He's the guy that if you're especially the trade deadline, we might need to see some new faces. He's gonna be the first guy that welcomes you in that clubhouse, and he is the glue that holds this team together.
Yeah,
but Travis, I think Travis.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
a
Travis
hard award.
Yeah, good
for sure
good in that spot too.
But like with Travis d'Arnaud, it's a lot easier to be an all-star and keep your Travis d'Arnaud did nothing wrong after the All-Star break either. Like he was a great player after the All-Star break, and you just don't have that many players in the league who is willing to take effectively a bench role, for the betterment of the team. And he does great preparation. I think the Braves catching tandem has always done excellent pitching preparation.
Sal Fasano and Rick Kranitz. I mean, they have a kind of low key, I would say Yadier Molina type preparation.
Yeah.
I mean that.
I'm going to make a bold
prediction
here.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going to make projections at the end, but I think when Brian Snitker retires, number 16 will be the next manager of the Braves. I think he says he wants to be a manager. The Braves love this guy.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
I think he'll be the next manager.
Well, speaking of bold predictions, we're going to take one more short break while we discuss if we should upgrade to Zoom Premium so we don't have to keep taking breaks.
If you want to help us upgrade to Zoom Premium with less breaks, you don't even have to pay us money. You just need to subscribe and tell your friends about the podcast. Show us
that you like listening to our voices. All it takes is one
If
click.
you're at this point in the video, comment, give us less breaks, all caps, and we'll know you've made it this far.
All right, see y'all on the other side.
Bye.
And we are back for part 3 of BravesKast. Did you subscribe? Because you should have. We can tell. We have analytics that tell us specifically. They give us your IP address if you watch the entire video and don't subscribe. So we know who you are.
We know who you are, Jeff.
Yeah.
from Georgia.
Yeah, and Chad from Ohio. I know you didn't like that Ohio joke earlier. No reason not to subscribe, though. It's just fun in games. It's just a kid sport. All right, so we are going to get into second half predictions. My favorite thing about the All-Star game is that a lot of people actually think it marks the halfway point. The halfway point was actually last week, but during last episode, we didn't reach that yet. So I feel less silly calling this our first half episode, but something I always thought was funny when people would be like, oh, it's the second half now, even though it's roughly like 55-60% into the season. Awesome. So yeah, we'll just do the same format we did before. We're just gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna start this time. My first second half prediction, I should have organized these to get more bold as they went on, but there's no order. It's just I was kind of coming up with them. So my first prediction for the second half is that the Braves will post the lowest starter ERA in the second half. Not bold at all. They did in the first half. Max Fried's coming back. The rotation's getting healthier. Spencer Strider, I think he's going to reach new level. I don't think he's going to have the struggles
that. Dylan Dodd and Jared Schuster.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully, yeah. Knock on wood. Yeah. So not a bold take. I think our starters ERA is going to continue to be impressive. That's it.
Yeah, I have a bold one. We're going to talk about the trade deadline on the next episode. I'm going to make a bold prediction that the Braves make a shocking move at the trade deadline.
That's pretty bold.
I've been thinking about the trade deadline for a while, and I just don't know what the Braves need. Like, you could add a reliever, sure. You could add a starter, but then, I don't know, I don't really want to push out Soroka. And, like, all of the position players are set. And the Braves don't need a bench player. Like, they literally have Charlie Culberson on their roster because they can't add a 14th pitcher. And they're just like, we like Charlie.
Do you think that the team that we're playing right after the All-Star break, do you think that's going to be a showcase of sorts? Do you think that's going to be
a... I would think that, maybe there's this guy in Anaheim who's playing for... frankly, a losing team, just downhill, and
that
maybe
so
just
sad.
Maybe the Braves trade one of their only prospects, and maybe like a Marcelo Zuna, and some other prospects, and they just happen to receive a guy who's a free agent at the end of the year, who can start and.
We will talk about that more on the next episode.
I don't think that's the move, but I do think that, I look at the Braves' needs and I'm just like, I don't know what they're going to trade for, but I don't expect Anthopoulos to stay pat.
I could see us train for a guy whose name rhymes with Mucus Piolito, who we might be seeing this weekend. My next second half prediction, I think Ronald's stolen base pace slows down. I know 2019 that happened where he basically wasn't stealing, and part of that was due to a minor groin injury that he had. I just think as the season wears on, especially dog days of August, they're going to be running less. They're going to be going more boomer bust, if that's even possible. I do think his homer pace picks up, and I do think he finished the season 40-60.
Unbelievable. It's just crazy that he already has the 40 steals in.
He already has the 40 steals. It's the All-Star break. He already eclipsed that total.
That just blows my mind. So mine is my prediction is basically like my biggest Braves desire, aside from a World Series this year, is the Braves haven't thrown a no-hitter since 1994. I really want to see a no-hitter in my lifetime. And I think this year is the year. We finally got a perfect game after 12 years or 11 years. It might not have been the person we were hoping for. It was probably the person we were least hoping for as a baseball community. But I think the Braves finally have a no-hitter. I think it will be a starting pitcher, complete game, no-hitter. My bold prediction of this point is that it won't be Spencer Strider. I think it's going to be a guy like Charlie Morton or Bryce Elder or even Max Fried. But I think we finally get that no-hitter this year.
And there's still some, to give credence to that, there's still some really bad offenses that we have. I mean, we haven't even played the Brewers yet. We haven't played the Pirates. I mean, I know they have
Sox.
Jack Sawinski.
That team is giving up. Eloy Jimenez today walked out of the box before the pitch.
Okay, to be fair, he was asking for, it was an 0-2 count. He was asking for a timeout that he didn't get. That looked a lot worse than it actually was, but it did look pretty bad.
It was
and
bad.
They ended up losing that game too, by the way. To the last place Cardinals, who have also given up on their season. My next bold take is Spencer Strider. Currently, his K per 9 is a hair above 14. It's like 14.3. I think he finishes the season with a 14 K per 9. That would be the greatest mark for a starter in a full season. That would beat out Garrett Cole's 13.8 that he had in 2019 when he struck out 326 hitters. I don't think Spencer Strider is on pace to strike out that many. Just doesn't have the volume, but I think he's gonna, which is just insane to think about. I mean, 14 K per 9. I mean, you can't think about that for a second.
The pitcher to be better, but like Strider had a few rough starts in June. But the last 3 starts, I think he's gone into the 7th inning.
And again, this is a rate stat too. I'm not expecting, I mean, they could start giving him some rest, just shorter, like more 5 and dive outings come August, and then build him back up for September into the postseason. Just because you don't want to have what happened last year, where he strains an oblique and is basically not Spencer Strider in the NLDS. But I do think that rate will continue to.
I think he holds
balance.
That pace. My next prediction is that Matt Olson hits his 40th home run before September. So I think he locks up that 40th homer. He has 29 homers right now. I think he hits 11 in the next month. Hits the 40 mark.
That is easy.
Before the September mark happens.
It's going to be fun, that Rockies series.
Oh, I forgot that hasn't happened yet.
Remember the Rocky series last year?
I remember that there was a 1-0 game into the extra innings.
Last year?
Yeah. It went 0-0 into the 10th.
Okay, well that they like dead in the balls or something. They were using like balls from like the 1900s in that game.
They went into that series. I think it was even a Strider game.
We did and there was just no runs. Them last year, part of the 14-game win streak. So we have a very, very lucrative history in Colorado, and
the Braves always win.
I would think some of the Braves players watched my my Coors Rocking batting title video and got some inspiration. I think that's the solid. I mean, I would say he could even get 45 homers before September.
That's a better bold prediction.
That's a
bold prediction. That's a better one.
Yeah. My next one is Kyle Wright does not make much of an impact on the team for the rest of the season. All the reports I'm hearing is, he's not even throwing now. I think there's enough rotation depth, and I know you said that we're not going to trade for a starter because you don't want to bump Soroka out, and I have a prediction for that later on. But I think just given how old Kyle Wright is, he's still under team control. I mean, is he ARB1 right now?
His is a weird status because he's pitched since 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
With the Braves, but he's been in the minors so much.
I don't think his service time started in 2018. I think he
has, and then 2019 he was up almost the full season, but I think he's ARB1 though.
Yeah,
I think 2022 was his first season.
If he was ARB3, they would push it more, but I just think given the nature of his injury, I mean, it's just like straight up shoulder fatigue because he pitched so much last year. I don't think the Braves are pushing it. I think we have enough firepower to be able to just give Kyle Wright the year off.
That is the luxury of having a team with this kind of depth is if we were the Marlins, having a guy like Kyle Wright might be a necessity if we're making the playoffs. For the Braves, at least making the playoffs, they don't need Kyle Wright.
Yeah.
They need Kyle Wright healthy for next year. There's no. I don't see any.
We're trying to win the World Series this year. Don't get me wrong. It's not. We're not playing for We're playing for sustainability and for the riches. Yeah. I just, if come August and Kyle Wright's just like, I still feel like an impinge in my shoulder. I still feel sore. I don't think the Braves are trying to like ramp him up.
I could see him making a few starts in September, and then being on the playoff roster maybe. But yeah, he's not going to be back before August. Like, there's no way. Yeah. He hasn't. I think he maybe started throwing a little bit, but he's behind Fried by a substantial amount.
By
and
a lot.
Fried might not make a start in July.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. My next one is that Acuna goes on a homer rampage. It's the middle of summer. The ball is flying out. He's on the Braves. I think we start talking about a 50-50 season. 40-40 has only been done 5
6
times?
or 7 times.
6 times?
Yeah.
A 40-60 season has never been done. I think maybe he gets the 60 steals, but I think come, late August, we're going, does Ronald Acuna Jr. have a 50-50 season in the tank?
I mean, we've seen him. I mean, we could go back to 2018 when he was on that just crazy homer streak. I could see it. I mean, like I said, I predicted that his homer pace is going to pick up. I just don't know if he has enough right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the cusp of a 40 home run pace right now.
Yeah.
Like, even at his current home run pace, he barely hits 40. So this is a bold prediction that he hits like 9 home runs in a week, and then sustains his other home run pace for the rest of it. Definitely a bold prediction, but
I mean, a 50-50 season is just. I mean, that was fantasy. A few years ago, and first year with the new rules, and Ron Acuna is making it an earshot. Even if it's like a long possibility, the fact that like we're still talking about it is amazing. My next one is that AJ Smith-Shawver ends up making the postseason roster as a reliever. It's the more I think about him as a starter this year, the more it just hasn't made much sense to me. I mean, I'm glad that he got his starts against, the Nationals and was it the Marlins?
The Reds and
what was the other good start he had? Nationals, Reds was the blow up start, the 11-12 game. But I think he could be a super valuable weapon out of the bullpen come the postseason. We'll see. I mean, we still have to see where Dylan Lee's at, where Jesse Chavez is at. But I think AJ Smith-Shawver would be a really, really good weapon. He could have his coming out party in October this year.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a possibility. The Braves always surprise you at the end of the season with the playoff roster. I mean, Tucker Davidson started a World Series start. So they're gonna. I mean, Terrence Gore has a World Series ring with the Braves. You never know who's going to be on that team.
Yeah.
I guess I'll add a prediction because I'm running to the end of my list, but I see you still have a few. I will predict that Forrest Wall will be on the postseason roster. Forrest Wall is like a 28-year-old non-prospect who's been with Gwinnett, but apparently he's really fast. I think Charlie Culberson is on the roster right now because they just don't need that spot, and they like Charlie. Like, Charlie's just a good dude to have around. But come the postseason, I think they're going to want another fast guy. Sam Hilliard is a fast guy, but he can be used for defensive swaps, and then having an extra speed guy on the bench might be enough.
My next bold prediction is that Sam Hilliard plays at least 3 games in the second half.
That is a bold prediction.
He has disappeared. He has gone off into the shadows. My actual next one is Austin Riley heats up in July, August, and ends the season with an 850 OPS. We talked about maybe I'm just making things right for what I said earlier. But if we remember last year, Austin Riley went on an absolute rampage in July of last year. Had one of the best months in Braves history. I mean, he was joining the Hank Aaron conversation, which that is rarefied air. And then proceeded to struggle after that. I mean, pretty much played his way into a 10-year, the largest contract in Braves history. I think he's shows signs that he's coming back. We were talking a couple weeks ago where he looked like he was on the verge of turning things around, and then he hit another dry spell. But I do think he finally, everything starts clicking come July, August, especially like we said, the weather heating up. It's getting really freaking hot in Atlanta, so air is very thin, and balls are going to carry out. And then you have one more, and then I'll go 3.
Yeah.
Just quickly go through my 3.
So I think I'm one of the rare Braves fans here, but I actually do believe in the Marlins. The Mets are so far back. They just had a 6-game winning streak, and they are still 5 games under 500. The Phillies have something, but I just don't. They've just lost this series to the Marlins. I think the Marlins are legit. I know the Braves have absolutely bullied them. But against other teams, they're holding their own. They have a really good pitching. I think when it comes to the one-run ball games, a lot has been made about luck. I think a team with the type of pitching that the Marlins do have helps them when it comes to holding games close. I think they are the only threat going forward to the Braves. And I mean, being 8 games back, that's not saying a whole lot. But I think they're the team that the Braves will need to be scoreboard watching if they do win the scoreboard watching.
They'll be the reason we keep the foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah. It's not going to be the Mets. It's not going to be the Phillies. It's the Marlins that close enough where you're like, we can't let our foot off the gas because we have to win the division. I like the Marlins. I like Jorge Soler. I love
think about.
Luis Arias.
The Mets with their $150 million starting rotation. I guess it's not that much. It'd be more like 120 something million. The Phillies
Mets
just coming off
like,
of a contract to Trey Turner.
Bad for Mets fans. They don't even have players to sell.
I do too. They have a couple. I mean, I saw Tommy Pham just got hurt today, which he was.
Did he?
Like,
oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tommy Pham has been injury prone in the past, but he was basically the guy carrying them on their 6th game. Him and Lindor. So, yeah, I mean, just a nightmare season through and through. Everything that's gone right for us has gone wrong for them. My last 3. Ozzy Albies slows down, but still finishes with career highs in homers, RBIs, and slugging. I forgot that he hit 295. He had like a 350 OBP in 2019. It's crazy to me. Like, I mean, I know it was the rabbit ball season, but still, I originally had his average OBP, but he's not even going to come close to those numbers. 4 Braves players receive MVP votes. I mean, Ronald Acuna is a virtual lock at this point to win MVP, but I mean, Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, Ozzy Albies, Spencer Strider might even get a couple down ballot votes. Take your pick.
At first, I was gonna be like, "Man, that is a bold pick," but then I was like, "Oh, we can think of 4 other players not named Acuna who could."
Yeah, I mean, they got to vote for. I mean, he's going to be the unanimous, but I mean, they still got to fill out like 9 other spots. So. And then last one is Michael Soroka ends the year with a below average ERA plus. Doesn't make the Braves postseason roster. I was going to end this with because I knew you're going to react that way, saying that we're still feeling optimistic about him. He knows, the Braves know that he still has a long road to recovery. He knows that even making it back here is still not the finish line. He still has
I react
quite a
that
ways.
way because it's believable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a bold prediction. It kills me.
Yeah, I think, and some of the, I try to kind of mesh these together. I think they choose AJ Smith-Shawver as a reliever over Michael Soroka as a starter, and I mean,
even in the NLDS, they don't need 5 starters. They don't need 4 starters. So it makes a lot of sense. Man, they don't need 4 starters. Who do you push out in the playoff rotation? If it's Fried, Strider, more not Elden?
No, I mean, depending on how Fried, but like when Fried was healthy this year, I mean, he was looking as good as ever. I mean, he was looking max Fried, not low Fried. So, and then NLCS, I would just same thing,
Elder,
then add Elder, and you don't need 5.
You don't need Colby, Sandy, Koufax, Allard in there.
Now if Colby Allard makes the postseason roster over Soroka, then I would be very sad. No offense to
I
Colby
need to
Allard,
see more innings from Allard because I know he didn't do well today in his relief outing, but I don't think he expected to pitch today.
Yeah.
But he has had 2 starts that have gone well.
Yeah,
that's weird.
I mean, they're definitely something to keep an eye out for. I mean, we're always looking for pitching. You can never have enough pitching. So, if Allard is another weapon, even if he could be, this postseason's Dylan Lee, depending on where he is, I'll take it.
Yeah. I didn't understand the trade. I thought the Braves could have just held on to Odorizzi and been fine, but Odorizzi is out for the year. He did not pitch a single inning for the Texas Rangers. So the Braves, in a trade where they got Colby Allard, got the better deal. That's crazy.
Yeah. What's like so crazy about the Rangers too? Their future rotation pieces. Kumar Rocker is getting Tommy John, and Jack Leiter has a 5.34 ERA in the minors.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just saw a tweet about it earlier. It's just kind of funny. I always think about and our friend and that's baseball. He just released a video on the 2013 draft and with Mark Appel, first overall, Houston Astros, doesn't pitch for them, not a single inning, and they still won the World Series. They I mean, I don't want to say blew, but they gave a first-round draft pick to a guy that did not contribute to their team at all.
They had 2 misses on early first-round picks. Brady Aiken, I think, is his name.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the Cardinals. Think about the Cardinals too. Like all the talent that they've given away, mostly to the Rays and Marlins. I mean, the Cardinals. I mean, I know they're not doing good this year, but they're still, the toast of the NL Central since ever. I mean, they've. This is the first year they've really been a bad team. I would say in the 21st century.
Yeah, I don't remember the Cardinals ever being bad.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about. Teams can miss. I mean, good teams do miss, and they do, make bad trades, and they have bad drafts, and they can still somehow, some way, come out good on the other side. It's just interesting to think about.
Because they end up having Soroka. We were talking about Soroka and Allard.
Yeah, and Allard. Yeah. And then the rain. Yeah. So, just interesting to think about.
Yeah. We won't make playoff predictions quite yet. We don't want to be Sal Litka. I think that's his name, Litka. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to say that the division's like that we won the division. I mean, I know we're 9.5 games up, but
the Braves will make the playoffs unless they have just an absolute collapse of the century. But we're not ready to lock up the division quite yet.
Yeah. Hey, remember September 2011. I mean,
We will. Oh God.
Yeah.
I think that almost drove me away from the Braves It was that bad.
That did. That and then the 2012 wild card game. That was probably the most miserable I've ever been watching baseball.
Getting to the point where I can watch Sam Holbrook call an infield fly and not just feel immense rage.
That play still, I mean, apparently he called it before, like apparently he called it right off the bat, even though it wasn't even in the infield. It was like, whatever. You know,
I like the 10-run in first inning against the Cardinals in 2019. I'm over. I'm completely over because a lot of those players ended up winning a World Series. The 2012 wild card series, Chipper Jones' last career game.
Yeah.
I'm just getting to a point as a Braves fan where I'm getting over it. But anyway, we will not be making playoff predictions, but we will be making short-term predictions for the next 2 weeks before we meet again. So it is the All-Star break. 8 Braves are going to represent the National League. Only 6 of them will play. Bryce Elder and Spencer Strider will not pitch. I'm kind of actually happy about that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. They get to enjoy all of the fun stuff about Seattle and, the red carpet, but then they don't have to,
Yeah.
wear out their arms.
Yeah. Seattle's a great city, too. I visited there back in September. Love it. Great city.
And so the Braves will then play 3 games at home against the White Sox, 3 games at home against the Diamondbacks, and then they will have 3 games on the road against Milwaukee before we talk again. The White Sox are kind of a sad team, but they're not like horrendously bad. They're not the A's or the Royals, but they are not good. The Diamondbacks are good. The Brewers are a very central team. They are very emblematic of the Central.
They have a lot of strengths, but a lot of flaws.
I am predicting a 6-3 next 9 games. The Braves continue to make me look stupid, though. I'm happy about it, but I'm not, because I make a bold prediction of 8 wins over a 12-game stretch, and they go out and win 10 games.
It's funny because, earlier episodes I've predicted sweeps, and first time I did that, we lost the series to the Athletics, and then I thought we'd sweep the Tigers. We dropped the first game, and then take the next 2 on the doubleheader. So I was like, I'm not going to predict sweeps for a while. I just don't want to seem too, I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. The White Sox, I think, are about as dead as a team can be right now. I think internally they're telling their players, like, most of y'all are going to not be on this team in the next month. So, maybe there's a chance that some of them know that this might be an audition, this might be a tryout, specifically one Mr. Lucas Giolito.
Do you think they do that trade during the series where, Ichiro got traded during the series to the Yankees?
That would be sick. No, I think the Braves wait till the actual trade deadline. I mean, there's still some question marks surrounding our rotation we want to have answered before we make any bold moves. So I think we sweep the White Sox. They are, just a very sad team, like you said. Tim Anderson has yet to hit a home run this year. We talked about Eloy Jimenez basically just stepping out of the box, taking strike 3, looking, just literally giving up on the at bat before pitch is even thrown. I was kind of going back and forth with the Diamondbacks. We did take the series against them in Arizona. I also know that Corbin Carroll is dealing with some shoulder issues. I know, especially with young teams too, coming out of the gate in the second half, you can get off to a rocky start. So I think we take 2 or 3 against the Diamondbacks, and then we're going to Milwaukee against the Brewers. Always interesting playing them in Milwaukee, just because they are our ancestors. The Braves were the Milwaukee Braves. Hank Aaron played most of his career in Milwaukee. So I was looking back to see how we did in American Family Field whatever it's called now.
What a terrible name for a ballpark, by the way.
They just get worse and worse. That and Lone Depot, it's just freaking awful.
My favorite is Guaranteed Rate Field.
I hate that. I'm sorry. I know White Sox fans. I mean, probably none of y'all are listening to this. Why would you? I hate everything about that ballpark. It is just like nothing about it is appealing to me, except for the little like lollipop things they got in left field. Those are cool, I guess, but it just seems like such a bland, generic, just so like stripped of life. We actually haven't. I thought we were a good team at. I'm just gonna call it Miller Park. I don't want to say American Family Field. I thought we were a good team at Miller Park. Turns out we weren't. Back in 2021, it was infamously the bench, the visiting dugout was where Oscar Yanoa broke his hand by punching it. So I'm gonna say we go one of three against the Brewers. We only take one in that series. A lot of it's gonna depend on pitching matchups, but just historically, we have not been a great team at Miller Park, and I think that continues.
Yeah, I mean I don't predict series because I'm a wimp, but
I want to get one right.
I do think the Braves sweep one of these and lose one of the series.
Okay.
And so I don't think that's a bold prediction. Also, the Braves have been really good on the road, but playing on the road is really hard.
Yeah.
The Braves have surpassed expectations when it comes to playing on the road. They're bound to lose one of these road series at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way they continue to do what they've been doing. Have they lost a road series this year?
Yeah, against the Athletics.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. I forget. I try to forget that one too.
Yeah. Well, that I think is about it for us today.
Yeah.
If you enjoy the podcast, remember to recommend it to all of your Braves fans and your Mets fans because, like we say in our description, we are for smart Braves fans or Braves fans looking for smart takes or Mets fans looking for dumb takes. And that applies to any National League East team. You know, it's fun making fun of your opponent's fan bases, and
I love it. I
we
used to
make
watch
some really bad takes.
Yeah, I used to watch listen to Talking Yanks whenever the Yanks would lose a series or get swept because
I listened to the Shea Station right after the collapse in September after the sweep.
Yeah,
it's
fun.
It's fun.
Not gonna lie, I get Schadenfreude. Sue me.
I look at Jerry Blevins sometimes and I go, man, you ended your career in Atlanta. How could you do this? You're not even from New York.
Exactly.
And so it's fun. So share this with your NL East fans who are not Braves fans because we're gonna get some things wrong, like Ronald Acuna going on a 50-50. That's just such a stupid take.
Yeah.
Like, who would even make that?
Like next thing we're gonna say that, unicorns exist
or that Shohei Ohtani will be wearing a Braves uniform. Like we are stupid.
Or that the Earth is flat. Dumb. I mean, it's pretty much the equivalent, the baseball equivalent of what we're saying. I mean, share the love. I think we kind of picked the right season to start doing this podcast, even though I think this episode shows that it's like if they continue to play at 110 win pace, we're just going to run out of things to talk about. Like we're just going to hop on.
We haven't talked about Acuna at all this year because he's had no cold streaks.
Yeah.
He's just been I guess this weekend in Tampa might be his cold streak. But
I mean, we cut out a segment, but I was just going to say he doesn't strike out for how much power he has. His strikeout rate is 12.1%, which is 10th in MLB. And by the way, I'm just going to read out the slugging percentage of the top 10 real quick. 477, 355, 509, 481, 381, 380, 328, 397, 353, 589. One of these is not like the other, and the other next highest is Jose Ramirez, who is also a unicorn in his own right. So we could do a Ronald Acuna Jr. corner, but he's good.
One
he's
of these
really
podcasts, we just need to sit down and we just need to have a 40-minute episode where we just talk about how good Ronald Acuna Jr. has been this year, and how even when we talked about him having a comeback season, I did not expect this.
I'm not gonna lie. I think one of this podcast's proudest moments so far is us just being totally optimistic on Ronald Acuna. Like us both going like, look, last year he was hurt. He's gonna be back to his MVP levels. That probably because there were a lot of Braves fans who were doubting Ronald. They thought maybe he would put up numbers similar to what he did last year, and they look really silly right now.
I definitely thought he'd
dumb.
get like 130, 140 WRC plus. He'd steal bases. His defense would be slightly better, but I didn't expect him to have 40 stolen bases at the All-Star break and basically be a runaway candidate for MVP.
Yeah.
We're optimistic fans, though, I think.
Yeah.
We're not. If you come here for like Frank the Tank vibes, we just don't have it in us.
No.
Like
Frank the Tank doesn't have a podcast though. I don't.
No, but like
it's gonna sound really
the vibes.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Just absolutely doom and gloom.
I've said this before, but seeing somebody like Frank the Tank makes me like enjoy baseball less.
I have the opposite. I love Frank.
I don't know. There's just certain people where it's like this is an entertainment product at the end of the day. You know, you do it to, it's entertainment. And you do it. There's feel good stories. I mean, it's better when your team is good. But seeing somebody who's like life, it's like this almost like this parasitic relationship between individual and team, where like this team causes him so much pain, yet he comes back over and over. Like it just doesn't.
Dude, I love after a win. You watch his videos and he's just like, "Well, we won."
Yeah, he's not animated at all. And then they lose, and he's like,
and you like ripping
earthquake.
his shirt off, and I can understand why you hate it, but it's just so funny to me. Like I can't imagine being that upset after a mid-May loss to like the Reds or something.
I know, and like I'm a hater. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like I said, I literally just said I used to watch Talking Yanks episodes after they'd lose a series or get swept or something. Like I'm a total hater, but that to me is just too far. Like that to me is just. It feels like watching somebody who needs help. So
Frank, he needs some help, but. I mean, if I was, we have a fellow YouTuber also named Frank, who is a Mets fan, and he absolutely despises Frank the Tank, and I can understand that. If the Braves had a Frank the Tank, I would despise him.
Yeah.
But as a non-Mets fan, I'm just like,
I mean,
it's just like, entertaining.
Yeah, it's also the same people, and I'm not going to say any names, but who just sit on Twitter all day and just like argue with other teams' fan bases. That's all they do. It's just
I've never actually done that. Maybe we should try that out someday on our BravesKast.
Man,
Twitter.
we should have like BravesKast Monday or something where we just argue with like other teams' fan bases all day. We'll make it like.
But then we pick on like the obscure players, or just like obscure players of players past, like on the Immaculate Grid, just like
Anyway, we're about to run out of time on the Zoom call. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check out No More Fielders, What Happened to Baseball, read The House That Hank Built, and see y'all after the All-Star break. Bye.
Bye.